Alright, hello and welcome back to another crafting video. Not been a lot of these properly recorded this league, so I'm sorry about that. But we do have a hopefully fun one here today, so we're going to be making some really cool influence boots, hopefully mirror tier. I'm going to try and triple elevate these. So the general plan is I'm actually going to make a pair of sort of like my boots right here, but a little bit better. So you can see right now on these boots, these are 30 quality Warlock boots. They have elevated Tailwind, elevated Onslaught via the Hunter and Redeemer influences, and then a tier 1 lightning res suffix. So those are the suffixes, and for the prefixes, we have an elusive mod, and then the tier 1 mana roll, and then an unveiled move speed mod. So basically the goal here is to basically make the same suffixes, and then also make elevated elusive in the prefixes, and then get void chill specifically for the move speed, and then also get tier 1 mana on there, which it might be kind of expensive, but I want to make some really nice boots, and figured it would be time for an upgrade. So let's try doing that right now. So we want to start with suffixes, and this is an influence craft. So I have this pair of Warlock boots that is 30 quality. Now in order to make a pair of boots like this, obviously you need to use Awakener orbs because they are using two different types of influences. So this is a Redeemer and Hunter pair. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get either elevated Tailwind or elevated Onslaught onto this boot, and then Awakener orb the other mod onto it. So you could roll this on your own. So basically you could do something like this, Hunter Exalted Orb. This adds a Hunter influence to the item. So what you could do is you could just Hunter Exalt this, make it Hunter, and then all spam for Tailwind, and then try and elevate it. This is very annoying, and will take a long time because Tailwind has an absurdly low rating. Also, it's probably a little bit easier to do, but yeah, for this case, I'm actually going to use Recombinator because I think that might actually let us do some other stuff as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to recombinate over one of these mods. I have here a pair of donor boots with elevated Tailwind on them already, and importantly, another suffix that is strength. Strength is a non-native suffix, which means that if it chooses to keep this boot pair as the base in the Recombinator, if we throw these together, this strength mod cannot roll over, but it will count towards the mod pool, which means that if we recombine these and this doesn't have any other suffixes, it will guaranteed keep the Tailwind if it chooses the space. So that is the whole idea here. So what I'm going to do first is, since obviously I need to have this influenced, otherwise we can't move any of the mods over. I actually have an Onslaught pair as well here, so we can do either one. I'm just going to start with the Tailwind one. So in order to give this Hunter influence, all we need to do is we need to make this rare, and then I'm just going to Hunter Exalt this, and now it has Hunter influence, right? And now importantly, what we can do here is I believe we can keep some strands in this craft. So strands are still in the game. They still work pretty much the same way. So in order to do that, we are going to need to scour this. So strands are a consumable thing on an item where you have a bunch of strands on the item, and then basically it consumes strands whenever you craft on it to enhance your rolls and make them better. So the goal I want to try make happen here is to have some strands going into the Awakener orb. And I believe if I can get some strands onto this and have it be magic, and then when we recombinate, if the Tailwind moves over, it'll keep the strands, because the strands are on this base, right? So I want to see if I can keep some strands on this. So I have some orbs here. These are Orb of Remembrances. These randomize the number of memory strands on a normal equipment item, so they have to be normal. And this is between 0 and 100, and it's pretty hard to get a high number, and we are going to need to do some finagling here after we actually get some strands here. So I'm not going to be super picky here. Any like decently high number. 14 is a little low. I think anything like above 50 I'll probably keep. These aren't super expensive. Yeah, like 60 is fine, because what we need to do here is I need to transmute this and make it magic, and then I need to have it not transmute on a suffix, ideally, because you can't recombinate with white items, so you need this to actually be blue. So I'm going to transmute here, hope it hit a prefix, actually hit a suffix. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to scour. I could go again. I think I'm just going to try and get some more strands. 50, 13, 20, 44. All right, let's get some more orbs. Another 5 here. Let's see if we can't get anything higher. I probably should have kept the 50 I had, but I'm dumb. All right, 70 is good. Okay, so here, again, I'm going to transmute. Hope to hit a prefix. Did hit a prefix. I did also hit a suffix, though. Let's try and null that suffix. I didn't. I nulled the prefix. I guess I could aug. It's going to use some strands here. I think what I'm going to do is, well, let's see. Is it auging? No, it's better to just scour, transmute, and then try and null that cold res. I didn't. Okay, I mean, we still have some strands. I guess 50 strands. How many strands do I want on this thing? I guess we can try and keep. I mean, it would be nice to have a high number. Let's try again. Let's try and go harder. 68 is okay. Let's try and do that. Again, hit one of each. We're trying to remove it. I'm just missing all these 50-50s, huh? 64. That used 2 strands. Now I need to null the ignite. Dude, why? Why is it like this? Alright, well, 62 again. Alright, we go again. We go again. Okay, 69 strands. Try and click. Now I need to remove the suffix. This is insane. I just cannot remove a suffix for the life of me, apparently. Alright, that's cool. Finally, hit a prefix. So now we have this now. So 65 strands, I think, is plenty for this. So okay, we have 65 strands here, and then no suffixes. And then on this, we have our Tailwind mod and our Strength mod. So now, since there's no suffixes on these boots and 2 suffixes here, that means there are 2 suffixes in the pool for their combination. So it'll always keep 1 mod, and that means that it is a pure 50-50. If it picks the right base, it moves the Tailwind over guaranteed. So I'm just going to go for the 50-50 here. I don't think there's anything else we really need to do here. We don't have any like exclusive stuff. I don't think so. This is a Hunter mod, but it's not elevated, so it's not exclusive. Alright, let's try and win. And there we go. Very cool. So what we now have is we have a 30 quality Warlock pair of boots with strands on them. So we need these to be magic because we are going to be utilizing beast locks, and these obviously only work on magic items. So what I'm going to do here is, luckily we can just do this in the crafting bench. You just put on suffixes can be changed. I believe this does not consume any strands. So suffixes can be changed on these boots, like so, and then we just scour, like so. There we go. Now we have a pair of blue boots. 30 quality Warlock boots, elevated Tailwind with 65 memory strands on them. So very, very cool. And now we can start trying some Awaken Orbs out. Okay, so here we are in the menagerie. We have our boot pair, we have our Awaken Orb. So here is the Redeemer pair we're going to be slamming onto this. So this has only 1 influence mod, and it's elevated onslaught, like you see right there. And then the other mods don't really matter. So the thing we're going to use here is called the Beast Lock. So if you start lock, this requires a Black Morgan and a Cricket Chimeral Beast. Usually the Black Morgans are a little pricey, but usually they're like, I mean, right now they're like 100 each, I believe, both of these, a bit less. But this applies a Hinicor's Lock to a magic item. So this is why we needed this pair of boots to be magic, because Hinicor's Locks makes you able to preview the results of currency used on an item without actually having to use them, and it's very useful for Awaken Orbs because you don't need to commit. This will give us a preview of both which suffix we hit with the Awaken Orb, because most of the time when you Awaken Orb 2 suffixes together, it will give you a random 3rd suffix. Sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it will. And it also is probably going to consume our strands. So we will both see which suffix we get and how many strands are used. We're doing this. There's some fancy stuff you can do with this if you have a bunch of different donor bases. So if you have like, I don't know the exact rules of this. I know Captain Last has a video of this from a while ago that goes over how to do this with like amulets. But when you are checking results of Awaken Orbs, you can have multiple donor bases of the mod and see different seeds if you set them up correctly. I don't know the exact rules of this. I think it might either be mod count per item or the amount of influence mods there are per item that changes the seed. But I checked, and they're just, it's kind of expensive getting elevated onslaught pairs to where I don't think it's actually worth using too many of these because I could just use another beast lock and that'll be cheaper. And then you know, buying or making another pair of elevated onslaught boots. But I did pick up this pair, which was pretty cheap. So this also has elevated onslaught and no other influence mod. And we're just gonna see if it's the same seed or not. I have a feeling it's gonna be the same seed as that one, but we will check just in case. Now we are going to need something in order to. So we are actually going to lock this. So there are some things we can check here. So each lock we can check a Sacred Orb, for example. I don't need to check a Divine at all. And I guess Sacred Orbs, does that consume strands? No. Yeah, we can check a Sacred Orb, and we can also just use, I don't know, I guess a random chromatic to reset our stuff. So what you do is you put the magic item in here. This is pure Hunter influence, and then you go lock, like so. So you apply a Hinicor's Lock to a magic item. Then you kill these beasts. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. So now this has a lock on it. So what you do then is you click your Awaken Orb, and you want to click the thing that's going to be destroyed first. This is classic influence crafting. So this destroys this item and then puts the mod on there and then makes it have double influence. So let's check our main one first. So you can see that I used up barely any of our strands, and we get tier 1 Chaos Res as the 3rd suffix, which is pretty cool. I actually hit tier 1 mana on the prefix as well, which is pretty badass. But yeah, this is not unfortunately what we're going for, even though it's cool. So tier 1 Chaos Res. Now let's check the other one to see if it's the same seed. It is the same seed, as I figured. You know, I want to try something for science here. We do have an open prefix. I'm just gonna try and get another influence mod on this thing. I just want to try this out. This is probably gonna be too wasted div here, but it's okay. So you can see that we have yeah, we have 2 suffixes, 2 prefixes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lock suffix here and reforge crits. This will guarantee an influenced Redeemer mod. So let's see here. Suffix is gonna change. Again, this is just basically science. I'm just curious. because I'm not really sure exactly how the rules on this work. So let's put another influence mod on there. So another Reforged crit. So now you can see that now we have we actually had 3 different influence mods. All right, interesting. Let's see if the seed changed at all. Obviously now it can move over multiple mods, but let's see if it changes if it chooses to move over the onslaught mod. So let's find out. See what happens here. So it did choose to move over the onslaught mod, and now it has a different seed. Okay, interesting. So now we actually have 2 different seeds here. So if this Awakened Orb picks the onslaught mod off of this pair of boots, then these 2 are different. So that's kind of cool. So it does seem to have something to do with the amount of influence mods, I would guess. But alright, so both of these missed, so now we have to reset it, or we can check the Sacred Orb. The Sacred Orb is not perfect, so there's no point in clicking it. So now we can just click here, and then we can reset it with a chromatic. So actually, I kind of forgot this was the thing. This is something else we should have checked on that one lock is there's Omen and Blanchings, right? Which we are going to eventually want to white socket this. This is 1 to 3 white sockets, so that'll be one of the things we check as well when we lock. So let's do another lock here. So now it has that. So now again, we check our Awakened Orb with our main base. There we get tier 2 ints, which is cool. It used up 30 of our strands, but it's not the thing we want. Let's check our other base. Here it moved over the elusive, so we don't care about that. Let's check the Sacred Orb. Sacred Orb, again, 79. And now let's check out this. This is a little buggy. I'm going to put this in my inventory. Sometimes this bugs out. Okay, so 2. Good, we don't need to check that. And then I guess now we can do a reset with like a fusing or something. That's fine. So now we reset it with our fusing, and then we just go again. It shouldn't be too hard to hit a tier 1 resist with this Awakening Orb, and remember that you can harvest swap resist, so we can hit any tier 1 resist here, and we will be fine. So let's put another lock back on there. There we go. Now let's check our Awakening Orb. We hit a Hunter mod for the Suffix, and actually some pretty cool prefixes. You can see that all the strands got used here, but we got some pretty high tier prefixes there, which is kind of cool. Let's check the other base. Move it over elusive, so we don't care. Let's check Sacred Orb. Sacred Orb 73, pretty bad. Let us check the chromatic. Nothing changed. Yeah, so here, sometimes this Omen bugs out. I think you need to switch zones, I think is how you fix it. It's a little annoying to do this, but eventually it's just going to hit 3 white and we don't have to check this anymore. Alright, 1 white. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can see that it even says that the Omen was used in the inventory even though it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. These Omens are kind of buggy with locks, but that's okay. So now we reset it with another fusing, and we go again. Alright, so another lock on. We check our first Awakening Orb. There we go, 2 res. That was pretty easy. It did eat up all our strands, but that is okay because we're not going to be able to really make much use of them in the future anyway. Let's check the other craft anyway. So let's see here. Yeah, let's move the little mod. Is there any way we can make use of strands? So should I keep going until it keeps some strands? I don't think so, because... Yeah, I don't think so, because we are going to, if we want to triple elevate, we're going to need Slam on an Influence mod, and Slams will just eat up strands. I don't think strands are going to help us hit an Influence mod anyway, so I think it's fine. Alright, so now we just Awaken Orb this, and we take it, because that is what we want. Very nice, so you click. And now we have this boot, so our suffixes are done. So tier 1 resist, elevated Tailwind, elevated onslaught, and now we just need to do prefixes, which can be kind of scary. Alright, so now our goal is to get elusive elevated on the prefixes here. So this is going to be a little annoying, but hopefully you can get lucky. So the way to get elusive on here is actually very easy. All you need to do is Reforge crit. There's only 1 crit mod in the prefix slot, and that is the Redeemer elusive mod. So we are going to craft on suffix going to be changed on here, and then do a Reforge crit. Now this can fill the item, which is the very fun part about influenced item crafting, but yeah, that's just how it works. So in order to do this, we are going to craft on the metacraft suffix going to be changed. Because we have full suffix on this and only an open prefix, we can make use out of the Wild Bristle Matron Beast. So it is the beast right here. Add a crafted meta modifier to a non-unique item. If you have an item that only has an open prefix, there's only 1 meta modifier this can add, and that is suffix will change, because all the other meta modifiers are suffixes. So you just do this, and these beasts are generally like half the price or so. They're, you know, usually around 1 div, so you save quite a bit of money doing this. So suffix will be changed, and then we go back and go to the Horde crafting bench. So here's the Horde crafting bench. So yeah, we do Reforge crit, and we hope it doesn't fill. Yeah, it's like a 1 in 7 to fill, something like that. I kind of forget the exact odds, but it's not super likely. But if it does, we're very sad. It didn't fill, and we got our elusive. Very good. Unfortunately, now what we need to do is we need to slam on an influence mod, because in order to elevate this, you need another influence mod on there in order to use a Maven Orb. And the only real way to do this is to slam one on, and I don't think there's any real fancy way, because you can't do the harvest like add remove craft on influence items, unfortunately. So yeah, we're just gonna need to block a mod and then slam and hope we hit something good. So I believe the best thing to do here is literally just to craft on a mana roll, because that is the highest weighting, and then we just slam. Apparently, according to... it seems like Foul Warning Exalt might actually have a higher chance of hitting an influence mod doing this. I am not entirely sure. These are pretty expensive, but I might just try. I mean, I have a few, so I'm done to try. These, I'm not sure if anyone has enough data on these to figure out exactly how they work in this game. I think Craft of Exile might be using like the POE 2 system for it, which I don't know if it's actually or not, but... yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to go by it. Apparently, it's a 1 in 20 to hit any of these prefixes, so it's not super likely. Let's try it out. All right, so now we hit a life roll. So what we need to do then, and this is the fun part, because we need to just remove crafted mods and then put the suffix change back on there and do another reforged crit. We could try and go for an annul. That could be a way to go here. I guess that's fine, because that would, you know, give us less chances of filling. So I guess we can try doing that for a bit. So again, we add the metacraft on here, so suffix changed. Use up a Wild Bristle Matron. So now I'm just going to try and annul that life mod. Alright, so now actually we have no reason not to just go ahead and reforge crit. I guess I can slam for the stream, try and get back. Alright, not quite. Alright, so now we go back and we reforge crit again, and now we hope not to fill. So let's go for it.
You've had a sail exile.
So we reforge crits. We didn't fill, even though it kind of looks like we did, but we hit a random rarity mod, which is not what we want. So again, what we need to do then is we need to go in here, and then we need to add the suffix we changed. Like so, and then go ahead and try and annul. I actually did annul this time. Okay, cool. So now we can go back and we try another slam. So again, we craft a mana to block, and I'm going to try Foulborn again. Alright, there we go. So now we actually got an influence mod here. So what we now do is we remove the crafted, like so. And then we add the meta mod back on. So it's a lot back and forth in here. That's the way with Wild Bristle Matron crafts. They are finicky like that. So yeah, meta, add the suffix change mod. And now we're going to go for an elevation. You could guarantee this if you want to be real juiced up and spend a lock on this. I'm not going to do that. I think it's okay. We are just going to send one. This is a 50-50. So let's buy a Maven Orb real quick. So this is the Maven Orb. This removes one influence modifier from an item with at least 2 influence modifiers and then upgrades the other one. And an important thing to remember with this is that this does respect meta modifiers both ways. So because we have suffix can be changed on here, it can't either elevate nor remove any of the suffixes. So it can only remove and elevate either of the prefixes. So we have to just go for it here. It's a 50-50. Again, you could spend some number of locks. Locks are 100 of each right now. I don't think it's worth spending a lock on this. And we're just going to have to hope to hit the 50-50. We did hit the 50-50. Perfect. Okay, very, very cool. So the next step here is going to be to Veiled Exalted Orb this. So the way this works is you remove a random modifier and then you add a random Veiled modifier to a rare item. So we're going to need to use this in order to get move speed onto these. So right now, if I were to use it, it would be a 50-50 to remove the elusive and to remove the crafted mod. We would of course want it to remove the crafted mod. Unfortunately, we can't really do much else fancy like meta mod wise or something like that. So we either have to just go for the 50-50 or we have to lock it. I'm thinking about this, and the problem with locking this, and you know, I have some currency to spend now, so I wouldn't be against doing something like that in order to just guarantee the craft goes through. The problem is I kind of ideally want to unveil a specific move speed, so if we were to lock it in order to guarantee hit the veiled, and then we unveiled the wrong move speed, that'd be really bad. Because we basically just wasted a lock, because then we'd have to remove the move speed again. So yeah, I'm trying to sort of consider my options here. We hit the veil mod, so now you can see the veiled orb deleted the craft mod there, and then it gives us the veil mod. So let's do that. So here, I don't think, I think it's almost guaranteed to get move speed either way, but I think I'm just going to block a mana roll here. You can have block mana roll life. I guess let's block life, I guess. So yeah, you craft on life to block, and then you just unveil. And this is basically 1 in 3. I believe every time you unveil, you basically get one of the movement speeds doing this. There might be a tiny chance you don't, but yeah, we really want chance to avoid, and that'd be really good. I would consider keeping the extra move speed. If we don't want onslaught kill, that'd be really bad. Here we go. Yeah, that's really bad. Honestly, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm literally just going to go. We're just going to suffix going to change a null here. Like, I'm just going to hope. Yeah, of course I missed. Alright, now we need to do all this stuff over again. So we go reforge crit. I guess I can slam once here. Reforge crit. Hit loose move speed, so we need to annul again. Alright, so we suffix can be changed on there with the 2 influence mods, so we just Maven Orbit. We hit it again. Okay, cool. This time, I'm just not going to lock it, I don't think. I've learned my lesson. I think it's just kind of stupid not to do that, given that we have to redo if we miss the move speed, so I'm just going to go for it. Okay, so we missed, unfortunately. I don't think there's much I can do here. I mean, we can unveil for funds. Of course, we hit it now. Classic. I mean, is there something we can do here? I don't really think so. It's just Reforge crit. Slam on random mana on. Alright. Yeah, we just Reforge crit again. Another shot here, craft on mana. We have elusive on there. Try another Fellborn. Okay, we did get another mod here, so now we can put the meta mod back on there and we'll go for another elevate. Alright, so go for the elevate. We missed, so now we go again. Alright, one more elevation attempt here. Okay, cool, cool. So now we get another Veiled Orb attempt. Elevated elusive, now we have to win the 50-50 again. Actually did this time. Alright, we got another shot here. That's exciting. Again, there are 3 different move speeds. 1 is ideal, 2 are worse. So let's craft on a life roll. I don't think it matters too much, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then we simply unveil. Okay, we got move speed and move speed if you haven't been hit recently. Let me see. Okay, so I think what we're going to do here is, obviously, ideally, I would want to avoid being chilled as the move speed here of choice here. But because the 6th mod we want is going to have to be locked on, so we're going to have to lock slam the mana roll, what we can do here is we can both check the Exalt Slam and also check the annul when we lock. And if it eventually removes the move speed, because if we hit a tier 1 mana roll within a few locks, I would probably just keep it and be happy about that. But if we do hit the annul beforehand, and that's a 1 in 5 annul, then we can just annul the move speed and then try and hit it again. And if you fail, just try and elevate again. I think this is a play. I think this seems pretty efficient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this crafting mod. For us to do this, we might as well divine this first. So we want to divine this before we have 6 mods, obviously, because it becomes a lot more difficult, because when you have 6 mods, you can't craft on a meta mod, which means you have to divine it all at once, rather than if you can craft on a meta mod, you can divine it partially. So what that means is that now we can start off by divining the suffixes, and then we can go on to divine the prefixes. So I'm actually going to do that right now. It's actually quite important to divine these because Tailwind has breakpoints, right? Because if you read the text right there, Tailwind increases action speed by 8%. So, you know, there are obviously breakpoints there where if you want it to be properly good and you want to get those 2 extra % action speed from your increased effect of Tailwind on you, you need to make it perfectly 25%. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to throw divines on this thing until that Tailwind hits 25, and then we will look at the Onslaught mod to see if it is also well rolled. So this might take a while. These are notoriously unfun to divine. 20, 23. So it's pretty easy here because we need it to be specifically 25. We don't care about the resist roll here because we can just harvest swap that. So here we have 25 Tailwind, but then it's min to Onslaught. The actual Onslaught chance doesn't matter, but we want to get a decent roll on the attack cast move speed at least. So I'm going to keep going. 24 is basically nothing. It's 24 or it's 25 or bust. Oh, this is really good. Wow. Okay, that was a very lucky divine. Okay, cool. So this is maxed effective Tailwind and 10 attack cast speed. So now we can go and divine the prefixes potentially. Although honestly, the prefixes look kind of good. Actually, yeah, I think this is just fine as is. Wow, that was a really good hit. Okay, so I guess we don't need to actually divine these any further. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to be locking these, and we are going to be checking different options. So we can't block anything because obviously it has 5 mods on it, so there's no blocking to be involved here. What we are going to be checking mainly is Exalted Orbs, Foulborn Exalted Orbs, and then, of course, Annuls, as I said. Foulborns are new this league, so these, I've used them before, but they augment rare hardness with the new rand modifiers, just like an Exalted Orb, but it has higher level modifiers being more likely as a thing. I'm not sure if we know exactly how these works right now. I've not kept track with the people doing data collection on this, so I'm not really sure personally at least how these work, but technically they should give you higher level modifiers on average. But for our purposes here, they are differently seeded to regular Exalted Orbs, which means that if you have locked your item, they will give different outcomes. So you get 2 checks basically per lock, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I'm going to check both Exalts, and then if those miss, we will check the annul, and if it removes the move speed, I'm going to take it, and then we're going to try another Veil Exalt in order to try and hit the right move speed. So I'm going to do a quick lock on this. So there we go. Now check the first Exalt. We are looking for tier 1 mana. That is tier 1 ES. Check the Foulborn. That is tier 2 mana. Not keeping that. And then we check the annul. The annul will remove the suffix. So alright, then we go again. So here we can also check the Sacred Orb. The Sacred Orb is not maxed. No need to check the blanching because we already did that. I guess we can technically check a divine, but it's very unlikely to be better. Yeah. All right, so now we just reset it with a fusing. We do another lock. Check the, I guess, file one first this time. Why not? Tier 4 mana. Then we check this. That is actually tier 1 mana. Wow. Okay. Well, am I just keeping this? Yeah, I mean, I think I just keep this. So yeah, this is tier 1 mana. I mean, that's what I hit. This is a very early hit. It's not a super difficult thing to hit, but it is, I mean, it's a 1 in, I think it's on average like 20 to 30 or something with this, maybe a bit earlier than that, but this is a very good hit. The Divine isn't great, but the Divine is, I think, fine for what it is. Yeah, alright, I guess we just keep this. Interesting. Alright, so now we need to Sacred Orb this to be perfect, so I'm going to Sacred Orb this to 83. That shouldn't be too hard. 82, 82... 76, well, needs more Sacred Orb. There we go, 83. Alright, so now it is Sacred Orb up. And then, of course, we need to swap this Fire Res to Lightning Res, because that is the character we're playing. We're playing a Lightning Res stacker, so we want to make this into Lightning Res. And we'll make sure it's max rolled, which it is. Very cool. Alright, so I mean, that's the boots, I guess. What I could do is, if I eventually want to fix that move speed, and I do really want to Void Chill on there, what we could do eventually is just go for the 1 in 6 Annul on the lock, and then go for the Suffix be changed, and then do another Veil Exalt and probably lock that at that point, because I do have the mana now. And do that. That will be an expensive process, but it would eventually get there. But yeah, I'm pretty happy we finished these. These are very cool and very good. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, alright, I guess that's it for this video. That was a decent process there. Yeah, alright, cool. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. That was a cool one.